Another stunning comeback, steals a sweep, steals a win, and secures some recent dominance over the Mariners once again. We'll talk about a crazy 2-1 win and some even crazier potential implications on today's edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast right now.
You are Locked On Angels Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, Halo Nation. Hello, Halo hopefuls. Hello, Postcast people, and welcome to the latest edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast, coming at you live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel and after the fact, wherever you get the Locked On Angels podcast feed. And my goodness, they did it again. This team, man, this team, they know how to break your hearts and they know how to creep you, get you excited again, steal your heart, steal your emotion, make you, fool you a little bit and think that this team might be something every once in a while. An unbelievable game, and unbelievable only because another edition, another case of the Angels doing absolutely positively nothing for the first 7 innings. Literally nothing. I mean, a game or two ago, it was literally a perfect game for 5 innings before things started happening. Today, not quite a perfect game, but no offense, absolutely nothing. Some great defense, some great pitching, but no signs of life with the bats until a huge 2-run 8th inning steals a win, seals a sweep. Like I said in the intro, wow. I mean, wow. I am amped up. I'm sure all of you are as well. I barely even finished the intro. Hello, everybody. My name is Gavin Carlson. If you don't know who I am, I spent 4 years as a credentialed journalist in the Los Angeles area. I am now, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I am stunned. I am stunned. Seattle is stunned. A lot of people are stunned. What a win. What a win. Shout out to everybody in here. As always, appreciate all the support. There's been some really great comments both on YouTube and on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, in my DMs as well. Appreciate all the kind words. Please, 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 if you liked that win, if you liked the postcast, leave a like on the video on YouTube, leave a comment as well, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you're watching or listening, after the fact on any podcast platform, make sure you give it a 5-star review. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. On today's show, on today's stunning postcast show, we will talk about Griffin Canning pitching phenomenally, only that one solo home run. We'll talk about the bullpen pitching even better. We'll talk about some great defensive plays, but we have to start with those 2 runs in the 8th that stole this win to secure, I think, the biggest series win, the best series of 2024, sweeping the Mariners while they're in this tight race for first place. And wait a second, is it time to check those standings? On July 4th, I promised I would never do it, but it might be time to start checking those AL West standings. Before we jump into everything, a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. And with all that being said, we jump right in to the 8th inning. At this point, the Angels had done just about absolutely nothing. A couple hits here and there, trying to threaten at certain points, but really no serious threat until the 8th inning. And once again, I mean, I'm a broken record with this. I really am. Every time it takes a reliever coming into the game for the Angels to do something. Luis Castillo absolutely shut down the Angels. He was great. Boy, he does not deserve the loss. 6 innings pitched, just 5 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. Of course, no runs. He looked like vintage, at his best, Luis Castillo, in this one. But then the bullpen comes in, and once again, the issues come in for Seattle. Not quite errors and throwing balls over heads like in previous games for the Mariners, but still a really, really, really bad collapse. Geez, Mariners Nation, absolutely a mess right now. I was watching the Seattle TV broadcast, and they were stunned. That's why I keep saying stunned. They were silent at points. I thought I was watching it with no volume on, with how quiet the announcers were. Just a really unbelievable collapse from them as of late. And I've never seen a team, we'll get back to the Angels in a second, but I've never seen a team that has such a glaring, obvious weakness that is so it's just so obvious that there's just one thing they need to fix in order to not be a good team, not be a solid team, to be a contending team. This rotation, this bullpen for the Mariners is lights out. And while the bullpen hasn't been as great as of late, the rotation has been phenomenal in this series and all season. They just can't hit anything. They just can't hit anything. And I said it yesterday, the Mariners are the perfect opponent for the Angels because the Angels can't score runs either until this 8th or 9th inning. And against other teams, competent offenses, the average at best, probably below average Angels starting lineup, can't limit those good offenses, can't keep the game close, and let the Angels have these crazy comebacks. In most games, you're already down 3-0, 4-0 by the 4th inning, and this lineup can never come back. But with the Mariners, they don't score any runs. They scored 1 run today on a solo shot. And other than that, they did nothing. The Angels were in this game despite doing nothing. And we said it in previous games. We literally said it 2 games ago when, like I said, they were no hit, I believe perfect gamed through the first 4 innings. Unbelievable. But we jumped to the 8th, like I was saying. And like I said, Castillo, I don't know why I keep mispronouncing his name. Castillo got pulled after the 6th. The 7th inning was 1-2-3 against Colin Snyder, but then Snyder replaced by Gregory Santos, the Mariners reliever in the top of the 8th, and that's when the Angels catch fire. Once again, just like yesterday when it was a Nolan Schanuel and Logan O'Hoppe back-to-back base hit rally to start the rally last night, Nolan Schanuel once again starts the rally. A single, kind of bloops one into left field. We will take it. Rengifo strikes out. Then Taylor Ward grounds out. Schanuel gets the second, but you're thinking 2 outs, runner on second. We've seen this story so many times. Willie Calhoun up, certainly not a world beater. Not terrible, but not a world beater. You're thinking, okay, it's going to be an out. Inning over, still 1-0. Maybe Calhoun can steal a single here and tie the game. That would be great. And that's exactly what he does. He hits a ground ball really hard, 103.8 exit velo on a 1-1 pitch, a fastball right down the middle, and he hits a fastball kind of inside down the middle to left field. Beautiful, getting inside of that pitch, ripping it to left field, opposite field for Calhoun. Schanuel comes around, even with that still not 100% calf, and he scores at home pretty easily. Then Ron Washington throws in Kevin Pillar for Willie Calhoun. We get a weird situation. There's a balk. While Drury's up, Pillar gets the second on the balk, and then Santos gets hurt. Has to get taken out of the game. Trent Thornton comes in against Brandon Drury, who is the guy the Mariners wanted to see in the batter's box for the Angels. But nope, not today. Not in Seattle in 2024 for the Angels, especially not in the month of July. The dominance, 6 straight wins against Seattle, and this one clinched by this Brandon Drury base hit, a liner in the gap to center field, kind of right center field. Pillar scores with ease. Now, the crazy thing is Drury gets thrown out at second, and, there was this whole thing where Ron Washington comes out and he's got his hands on the umpire, who, by the way, the home plate umpire this afternoon, was terrible. He was awful. I think Taylor Ward got rung up on a high fastball that wasn't even close. I forget who else. I think it was Willie Calhoun that might have gotten struck out on another pitch that was way outside or something. Really bad stuff from him. And so Ron Washington had his hands on the shoulders of the umpire at one point because of this play at second base, because of some other stuff in the dugout. But the Angels don't end up winning a challenge. Drury is out at second, but who cares? Who cares at this point? It's 2-1 Angels all of a sudden, out of nowhere. Absolutely nothing offensively before that, and in a blink of an eye, just a couple hits. It starts with a leadoff single and then 2 clutch hits from 2 guys who have not been phenomenal, one way better than the other, let's be honest. Willie Calhoun has been really bad as of late. We know he had a great stretch. He's hitting just 255 now. He was still just 1 for 4 today. But Brandon Drury, even after a 2 for 4 today, is hitting 172 with a 4.66 OPS. That clearly, sometimes the stats don't tell you everything, but that tells you everything you need to know. He has been brutal. So how nice that he comes through with the trade deadline a week away. I don't think Drury's getting traded. I don't think so. The value is just in the gutters. He's been absolutely abysmal. So this is a guy that you want to see him play well, not so that you can flip him for something. You want to see him play well because he's actually someone we're going to have to watch play baseball for the rest of the season, most likely. So good for him to come up clutch in this moment. And wow. from down 1-0, from dead offensively to up 2-1. Estevez shuts the door in the ninth. We'll get to the whole pitching performance after the breaks. Griffin Canning was great. The entire bullpen was perfect once again. And man, we'll talk about the pitching performance. And the third segment, you better stick around because we have to talk about what this means. We really do. If you don't remember, if you didn't watch, on July 4th, I came in with a kind of corny intro saying I vowed on this July 4th to declare myself independent from ever checking the MLB.com standings. But I stand here today, 20 days later exactly, and I'm checking those standings. Wait a second. The Angels certainly, at the very least, have totally shaken up the AL West. The Mariners collapsing 3 in a row, now 6 in a row against the Angels. You could have easily won those 6 games if you're Seattle and still be running away with the AL West. But now they have fallen apart. The Astros have surpassed them. The Astros almost lost, they lost the series against the A's this weekend or this week. So absolutely crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. The Angels' schedule gets favorable with the A's coming to town. And all this stuff. So we'll get to that as well because absolutely crazy stuff with the standings. I never thought I would be talking about the standings in the remainder of 2024. And oh yeah, the trade deadline is a week away. Hold your breath. What's going to happen with all of this? So we're going to take our first break here. When we come back, we will talk about the stellar pitching performances from Griffin Canning, from the entire bullpen, and we will get to a much deeper discussion about the standings, about if this, in my opinion, best series of 2024 changes anything with the trade deadline less than a week away and some decisions need to be made because wait a second, are we sniffing the AL West? Are we sniffing the lead? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about all of it after our breaks here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Now, today's show is once again brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival city. I am in technically a rival area. I am in the Bay Area. I'm from the Bay Area. I'm certainly not an A's fan. I don't need Booking.com for this day. This is my home, my childhood home. I'll be going back to LA actually tomorrow. Don't need Booking.com for that either. But I did use Booking.com last week. As you all know by now, I was in New York for a week. Booking.com made the stay easy. The app is great. I use that. You can use the website as well. It's all great. So from hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com or on the site, or in the Booking.com app. And today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Today's show, yikes, is brought to you by Prize Picks. Let's correct that. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps where you're competing against people with algorithms and AI strategies telling them which players to pick and all this stuff, you're not competing against those guys or those computers. It's just you against the numbers. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends, including myself, and become a part of that huge Prize Picks community today. There's great promotions. Tuesdays, they lower some stats, make them easier for you to win. And on Fridays, if your lineup doesn't hit, you get your money back. So talk about, it's a win-win situation there. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Back here live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast. I'm Gavin Carlson, and the Angels, in my opinion, just completed the biggest series of 2024 for the Halos, completing a sweep in Seattle in what was first place Seattle Mariners. Not anymore, because wow, you sweep the Mariners 3 games, 3 thrilling games, let's be honest, some comebacks, some late game heroics. We saw stellar pitching performances on both sides, but the Mariners can't hit, man. They really cannot hit. Just 1 run in each of the 3 games for the Mariners. The Angels pitching staff has been phenomenal. And at the beginning of the series, after the first game, after the second game, I'm thinking this is perfect. This awful Mariners lineup is boosting all the trade values of our starting pitchers, of our bullpen arms. But now we'll get to it. Are we selling still? Are we selling still? We'll talk about it. I'm not going to spoil how I feel about that. We'll first talk about the pitching performances because, man, everybody was great. Griffin Canning, not a very long outing, not the cleanest, easiest outing, but at the end of the day, you go 5 innings, you give up just 4 hits, you do have 3 walks, and you do give up a home run. But despite the 4 hits, despite the 3 walks, the only run is a solo shot. Pretty crazy. For once, he didn't give up a run in the first inning, and for once, he's going to leave a road game with a win. He's been absolutely abysmal on the road, even though in Seattle specifically in his career, he's been pretty good. But he's been terrible on the road. He's been terrible in the first inning. He eliminates both of those things today. No first inning run. He immediately gives one up in the second. But other than that, he was great, and he got a lot of help defensively. He did, specifically in the 5th inning, because in the 5th inning, there was all sorts of issues for him. The bottom of the 4th inning. It started with a leadoff double from Jorge Polanco on a grounder to right field. Then he walks Mitch Haniger. It's first and second with nobody out. Then he gives up a single to Jason Vosler on a liner to left field. The bases are loaded with nobody out. And it's interesting. When it was first and second after that walk to Haniger, and there was already action in the bullpen. So it was clear that Ron Washington had a short leash for Griffin Canning today. He knows he's been really bad on the road. He knows he's been kind of up and down, kind of inconsistent. I think he needs to start getting some credit because he's put together a couple good starts in a row. Real quick, I'm going to check the ERA. It's over 5, so if I may be forgetting. I think he did have a recent poor start, so still not a great ERA and everything, but he's had some decent performances. This was certainly one of them, but he got a lot of help, like I said, because in that bottom of the 4th, with the bases loaded, with someone already in the bullpen, with Ron Washington signaling that there's a short leash, with there being a mound visit, with Matt Thaiss, with Luis Rengifo, a lot of pressure on Griffin Canning. And he didn't quite necessarily do the job himself at all. It's not like he forced weak contact. 100-mile-an-hour grounder off the bat of Tyler Locklear down the third base line, ripped to Luis Rengifo. This easily could go under the glove, get by Rengifo, dribble all the way to the wall in left field, and then we're talking about at least the runner on third, at least the runner on second, maybe the runner on first, all scoring, and this game being at least 3-0, maybe even 4-0, with still nobody out. We're talking about blow-up game, 7-0 loss on the way. We know what happens when the Angels fall behind 4-0. They don't do anything, and then maybe in the 9th inning, they come back and score 5 useless runs. But instead of all of that, Luis Rengifo makes an unbelievable play. He snags the hard 100-mile-an-hour grounder. He steps on third. Then he throws it home. Easy tag for Matt Thaiss. Double play in the best way. You get the 2 lead runners. The runner at third, and then it's not a forced play at home anymore, but it was so quick. The ball was hit so hard. The transition from Rengifo was so quick that an easy tag for Matt Thaiss. And suddenly, bases loaded with nobody out is now 2 outs. And nobody on third. I mean, just in an instant, a very ideal situation. Then Canning does his job. He strikes out Luke Raley in a pretty long at bat, 8 pitches, gets ahead 0-2, then forces 2 more foul balls, then throws 3 balls, but then he gets the strikeout to officially, unbelievably get out of a bases loaded, no out jam and give up no run. So the score remains 1-0. Huge momentum boost. How do the Angels respond? A 1-2-3 5th, a 1-2-3 6th, a 1-2-3 7th. So that's what I mean. Even in a game where this is a momentum team, and even a game where there was so many reasons, at least that 4th inning, a clear reason to have some momentum, the lineup still did nothing. Still looked lifeless, which makes that 8th inning that much more improbable, that much more unbelievable and clutch and exciting and great and every adjective you can think of. We're going to take our last break here. When we come back, oh wait, I didn't even get to the bullpen. Excuse me, real quick. Not time to take the break yet. I was so into that 4th inning because easily one of the best defensive innings we've seen. There was also a great Joe Adell catch in right field where you couldn't even tell if he made the catch. He caught the ball sprinting down the line. Then he ran into the wall. The TV angle made it hard to even see if he caught the ball. He did. He made another running catch, not as hard, but Adell was doing things. The Rengifo play was great. Great job by the fielders in this one as well. And then real quick, the bullpen was great. Jose Quijada makes his first appearance since, 3 centuries ago. Some Angels fans probably forget who this guy was, but he was good. He looked pretty darn good. No hits, just 1 walk. But other than that, 1, 2, 3 besides the walk. Hans Kraus gave up just 1 hit, but then he had 2 strikeouts. Luis Garcia gives up just 1 hit. But other than that, pretty darn good. Victor Robles will disagree with him, or with that statement there. He took one off the elbow. But then Carlos Estevez as well comes in the 9th. He continues to be locked down. 1, 2, 3. Estevez, if we are still selling at the deadline, which we'll get to, his trade value cannot be any higher. It was not that long ago where we were calling this the blowpen, where Estevez had blown some saves, where the setup guys were no good, where Matt Moore was terrible, where Hunter Strickland was terrible. And now all of a sudden, Estevez is like A+ type of trade chip, a consistent veteran closer who gets saves and is pretty darn consistent. That's an A to A+ level trade chip. Luis Garcia quietly has been real hot. Hans Kraus has been unbelievable. I don't think we're going to trade him, but the bullpen has been great. They were great today. No runs through 4 innings, just 2 hits given up by the bullpen in those 4 innings, and the biggest key of all, no walks. Great stuff from the bullpen. So now, when we come back, that long-awaited talk about the trade deadline, about the AL West standings. We'll get to all of that after our last break because, boy, I can't believe we actually need to have this discussion, but we actually do. The AL West standings, they're crazy, folks. We'll talk about it all after our last break here. Locked On Angels Postcast. We'll be right back. Finally, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time, if you don't know what it is, it's an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, and it makes getting tickets faster and easier because here's the key. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Now, want to hear something crazy? This might be the most, current events ad read of all time, the most real-time ad read of all time, because I'm not even lying. I'm in the Bay Area. I'm a soccer fan. If you have watched the podcast, you may know I love Chelsea. Chelsea is playing at Levi Stadium, about 20 minutes from my house, in 3 hours. And I have been checking the Game Time app, waiting for the prices to go down, exactly like they say in their slogan, exactly like their branding, exactly like I say on the ad reads. And it's not a lie, it's not a joke. I use Game Time for the New York Liberty game last week in New York. I used Game Time for the Yankees game last week in New York. And I am now literally using Game Time as we speak. The second I hit end stream on this and do the posting on the podcast side of things, I'm going to go on Game Time, see if those prices went down even more. Kickoff is in 3 hours, and I'm not sweating it. I know I'm going to get a great deal because of Game Time. There's so many great features. My favorite by far, it tells you the actual price, all in pricing. It doesn't tell you the price before fees and before taxes. It tells you the actual price. The last minute deals, of course, what I'm using, amazing. It gives you a view from the seat. There's the lowest price guarantee, Game Time ticket coverage, all that stuff. So please, just like me, take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets or any other tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Oh yeah, I'm doing that too, by the way. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I am not kidding. I'm literally, the second this postcast ends, going on the Game Time app and buying those tickets. It's great. Use the code, $20 off. It is great. But with all that being said, you know what else is great? Winning 3 games in a row against the Mariners. Now 4 games in a row overall, and now 6 games overall against the Mariners. And wait a second. All these division wins, if you take a look at the standings, which I promised I would never look at, the Angels are still just 8 games back of first place. They were 8 games back coming into this. They've actually gained ground on the Mariners. They're now just 7 games back of the Mariners, of course, with this win. The Astros did win, so they are 8 games back of the Astros. But why the heck am I looking at the standings? A, when I said I was never going to. B, when the Astros are still 8 games ahead of us. I'll tell you why. Because who do the Astros have up next? Who could they possibly have that they'd maybe lose to that would maybe make things even more interesting. Oh, yeah, they play the Dodgers this weekend. They play the Dodgers. It's at home. It's in Houston. It's a big-time series. There's Friday night game, Saturday night game, Sunday day game. It's going to be interesting. But you easily could see the Astros lose the Astros lose 2 of 3, if not all 3 to the Dodgers. You could easily see that. What happens if that happens? Obviously, the Angels have an opportunity to make up ground. Now, who do they play? I mean, of course, Gavin, if the Astros lose, that's great. But let's not act like the Angels are going to be playing people that they can beat, right? We got the A's. And then we have the Rockies. These are bad baseball teams. 4 games against the A's. And I know we just got swept by the A's literally at the beginning of this month. We just lost 2 of 3 against them this past weekend. But there is a possibility. There is a outcome that's not that far-fetched in which the Astros lose at least 2 out of 3. The Angels win at least 3 out of 4 against the A's. And then we're talking about that 8 games back being 6 games back or something. Now, if then you play the Rockies for a couple, you maybe win 2 games out of 3 against them. And then you got the Mets coming to town who are solid but not world beaters. I mean, it's a realistic possibility. Now, here's the big question. A, do I think all that's going to happen? And B, what does it mean for the trade deadline? What does it mean? Because literally, the A's series ends on the 28th. They have the day off on the 29th with the deadline on the 30th. How crazy would it be if the Angels won 3 out of 4, the Astros got swept or something, and the Angels go into the trade deadline with the day off on Monday the 29th and are like a handful of games back of first place? What in the world is this front office going to do? I have no idea. And part of me of course I want to win. Of course I want to be a handful of games back of the Astros, but I don't know if I want to deal with the stress of watching a trade deadline with this front office, with this actual conundrum. Before this Mariners sweep, we had 2 of 3 losses against the A's. The bigger thing is that the rest of the AL West has also been struggling, but we're still 12 games under 500. We still are not a good baseball team. We still, even if we are like within 5 games of first place, the current construction of this team is not getting, overcoming that deficit. I'm sorry, it's not happening. But what if this front office goes, we're certainly not there yet, but we get a guy or 2 add into this team that's suddenly playing well? I mean, there's still 12 games under 500, but let's say not suddenly playing well, but it's suddenly 5 games out of first place, something like that. What does this team need? It needs a starter. It needs 6 hitters. But if we get 2 hitters and a starter, could this Angels team overcome 5 games in this crazy division? Maybe. And maybe that's what this crazy front office will think. Now, here's my take. Don't fall for it, please. This is great. This is fantastic. And the best part about this, in my opinion, is other than Tyler Anderson and Carlos Estevez, the people that are getting traded at the deadline for the Angels are not even the biggest contributors to this team. The reason the Angels won this series, swept this series, was because of Joe Adell, because of Mickey Moniak, because of Nolan Schanuel, because of Logan O'Hoppe, because of Zach Neto, because of this one, Willie Calhoun and Brandon Drury. None of those guys are getting traded. None of them. Now, of course, Tyler Anderson had a great start, and he's probably gone. Of course, Griffin Canning, he had a great start just now. He's probably staying, though. Carlos Estevez has been locked down. He's probably gone. But you're telling me that in a game like this, you can't throw Ben Joyce in there in the 9th and still get the save? You absolutely can. I think the rest of the bullpen stays other than Carlos Estevez. I think the rest of the rotation, which is pretty bad, by the way, stays other than Tyler Anderson. And while those guys have been great, they've been great. I don't think them being gone makes this team that much worse than they already are. Because let's not forget, this team is still not good. This team is still 12 games under 500. And so this is a long, maybe confusing, hopefully not, way of saying that I think 2 things are true. 1, the Angels actually, believe it or not, have a puncher's chance at this AL West. I would have never said that even a week ago. They have a puncher's chance, not even because they've been winning, other than this sweep here of the Mariners, but because of the chaos at the top of the division. That's the main reason. But number one, the Angels actually somehow have a puncher's chance. And in a week, less than a week, in 5 days, if you're winning 3 or 4 at home against the A's and the Astros lose 2 or 3 or something like that, you really have a puncher's chance. That's number one. But number two, and the bigger point, and the more important point, and the point you cannot forget, even if we sweep the A's, even if the Astros get swept by the Dodgers, is that you can't get away from the point of this season. The point of this season was for the young guys to develop and for the old guys that are not the future of this team to have good years and then get traded away. So we can finally have some minor league prospects that are worth anticipating. And so I think this is kind of, the dream scenario would be winning every game. Okay? The dream scenario for this team, because of course that was never going to happen. The dream scenario for this team was the young guys play so well that even if the old guys play well and get traded, you're still in the hunt. Now, we haven't really had that. Let's be honest. Moniak's still been bad. Adell's still been awful. The rotation's been a mess. But more so because of the AL West being a mess, the Angels are kind of in that second ideal scenario of we can afford to still cash in on those big guys, on a Tyler Anderson, on a Carlos Estevez. We can still cash in on those two guys. We can still certainly trade Taylor Ward away and not get any worse, maybe even get better. Because let's not forget, eventually, even though it seems like it's going to be in a year, we will get Mike Trout back. And Mike Trout can step in for Taylor Ward in a heartbeat. And with half a knee, will play better than Taylor Ward has played. So, here's my opinion on all of this. On should the Angels suddenly become buyers at the deadline? Should they stay put and see what happens? Or should they still sell? I think staying put is probably the worst thing a team could do. Staying put is just you're confused. You don't know what you're going to do. Don't do that. I think the clear thing the Angels should do is still trade Carlos Estevez, get some great prospects. Still trade Tyler Anderson, get some great prospects. Still trade Taylor Ward, get some prospects, but mainly get that weak glove, that inconsistent bat out of there, and just slide Mike Trout into that third hole. And guess what? Even after doing all that, you can still compete because this division is so bad. And because the guys that are traded away are not like unbelievable world beaters. The only thing I think this maybe changes is I think maybe you keep Rengifo. I think the fact that you're in striking distance, you keep Rengifo because he was kind of a wild card where you would need to be wowed by an offer anyways. And if you still need to be wowed by an offer by Rengifo because of this win streak, that's fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that stance. But those three guys, I think, still got to be gone. And as great as Tyler Anderson has been, as great as Estevez has been, I don't think Estevez leaving suddenly costs you 10 wins or something. Ben Joyce can slide right in and be the closer. Tyler Anderson's a different story. The rotation is awful. But I'm willing to cash in on Tyler Anderson and make it a more difficult race to having this miraculous AL West win. Because let's be honest, if you were a betting man, I'm giving the Angels a 10% chance of winning the AL West, even with the current roster. Maybe it's a 20% chance if they go out and get an ace, right? So it's not worth it. And I say if it's 10% with the current roster, it's probably like 7% if you trade Tyler Anderson and Carlos Estevez and Taylor Ward. So who cares? I'll take 7 as much as I'll take 10 if I also get prospects in it. I think we can all just sit back and be happy that we actually are even remotely looking at the standings while still being in an awful year, while still needing to trade everyone away. I think that's the moral of the story. So a little long there at the end. That's my take. That's my take. Don't trade anything or don't change anything at the deadline. Still trade the guys you need to trade. And hey, trade them away and still have a chance to make an AL West race. A win-win, an absolute win-win. So with all that being said, let's go celebrate. Shout out to everybody in here. Break Less, Jeff, Joe Santa Cruz. I think it's the first time seeing you in there. Fut Alex, Daniel Barry. Appreciate all of you. Jeff says he wants to see Houston beat those Dodgers. I know we don't like the Dodgers, but hey, there's actually a kind of an AL West race in here. I would like to see the Astros lose and make things interesting. Fun Alex says every time the Angels win, the Astros or Texas Rangers win, and we don't move much in the standings. That's true, but there were a couple losses by the Astros today, or this series, this stretch that changed that narrative. And the moral of the story is we can beat the A's, and the Astros can certainly lose to the Dodgers, and the Mariners are a mess. So there's certainly a path there. It's a crazy, unrealistic path. Like I said, I give it 10%, and if you trade the guys at the deadline, I give it a 7% chance, something like that. But I will take a 7% chance and prospects over a 20% chance with absolutely no future. That's my take. That's all that. Shout out to everybody in here. Appreciate you all so much. Be back here tomorrow night, as the Angels open up their series at home against the A's. I'll be back in LA. I'll be back in an apartment, not in a bedroom in my childhood home. So I'll be changing up the background on you, but I will be back in LA, and hopefully I'll be joining the Angels back in LA with a win. Join me tomorrow on the postcast. Thank you so much, as always. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a 5-star rating on any podcast platform, and let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my stance on the trade deadline. With all that being said, I'm Gavin Carlson. The Angels win 2-1. The Angels sweep the Mariners, and the Angels, wait, we might need to check the standings in 2024. That's unbelievable. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. So long.